Hi, I am Ashley Barrientos, and this is my what, final four questions um, for our class, Assessments in Special Education. So first of all, the first question is about the least restrictive environment. And when we are talking about the least restricted environment, um, what we want to look at is a couple different things. We want to see what's most important for that student. And I say that student because we need to make sure that we are looking at those students individually. We need to make sure that they are learning in an environment that is best suited to them. They should ideally be around their non-disabled peers. So ideally in a general education classroom with additional supports. However, if that is not I something that can happen, then a pull-out situation or something like that may be what works best for them. The LRE can also be their home or a hospital. It is whatever is best for that student. So oh, look, it's gonna go back over. Gotta click enough. So our next question is over the assessment process in special education and why it is called a cycle. So we have the definition of cycle here, which is a series of events that are regularly repeated in the same order. So if we stop and think about that, we're going to look at it as a continuous cycle. We're going to make sure that these things are going around and around every time. We want to see that there's the identification and referral of the student. We need to determine their eligibility. We need to plan their program out for them. And then we need to make sure we're implementing that plan and we're monitoring them as we go. We could also look at it like this. We want to collect the data. We want to analyze the data. We want to evaluate the data. We want to make a determination on what we believe that student needs. And then we need to go ahead and make those recommendations. And we want to make sure that we are following the cycle. We want to make sure that when we are talking about IEPs, that we are reviewing those annually. We want to make sure that we are doing a 3-year reevaluation. So these are things that are going to continuously happen. We're going to continuously make sure that we are collecting data. We're going to make sure that we're analyzing that. We're going to make sure that if there are any evaluations that need to be made, that we do that. So our third question is about family participation and how we can get families to participate more so in the special education assessment process. So we're going to look at that in a couple different ways. First, we want to make sure that as the professional, we are being professional. We want to make sure that we are professionally dressed and groomed. We want to make sure that we are completely ready for that IEP meeting or that just meeting in general. We want to make sure that we are showing our best self. We also want to make sure that we are asking parents for their input. Parent information is vital. Parents know their children best. They know them better than anyone else, and we can learn so much from them. And I think it's just so important that we do that. Along the same lines, we want to make sure that we are showing respect, not just for the student and the parents. We want to make sure that we are also respecting their privacy. We want to make sure that we are keeping things, personal information, personal. We want to make sure that we aren't talking about things outside of where we need to be. And when it comes to talking, we want to make sure that we are communicating with our parents and our families. We want to make sure that we are communicating early, and we want to make sure that we're communicating often. However, there might be situations where communicating often isn't always best. Sometimes parents need few words. So it's kind of also finding that balance of what that family needs and how we can go best about communicating that, whether it's phone calls, in-person meetings, emails, whatever, just making sure that we are communicating in a positive manner. And along those lines, we also want to make sure that we are communicating in a way that the parents are going to understand us. So we want to make sure we're eliminating some of that teacher talk that we've all learned. We want to make sure that parents understand exactly what we're saying. A parent might not know what the word elope means when we're talking about education. But if we say they run out of the room, they run out of the building, they'll know what that means. So it's really important that we make sure that we are communicating in a way that's best for them. And we want to be supportive. We want to be supportive of our students. We want to be supportive of our families, and we want to make sure that the families are able to support their students. We want to make sure that we are providing a safe environment for those students, a safe environment for those parents. And we want to do whatever we can to help the family feel supported as well. You know, if we can find programs that might benefit the family and the student, anything like that that we can do is just huge in building rapport with parents. So our third question is talking about the scores. Excuse me. I'll be honest. This is our fourth question, excuse me. When we talk about scores, I have a little bit of trouble, I won't lie. So our first score are the percentile rankings. So our percentile rankings, excuse me, take a score and it converts it into a percentile, and it shows us where that student is performing at or below their norm group. When we talk about percentile rankings, we also want to make sure that we are we're separating the difference between a percentile ranking and a percentage. So those are two different things. Also, quite often we'll see separate tables for ages or grade levels. So that's really important. Make sure that we're showing that difference. And as a whole, our percentile ranking is just kind of indicative of the position in which the student falls in the norm group. So if they fall at the 50th percentile, we're going to know that out of 100 students, they are performing at or above 50% of their peers. Our second set of scores are standard scores. Now, our standard scores are going to show us how close a student is to the average, excuse me. So we are going to see our standard scores. We're gonna see a standard score generally of about 100 is kind of the standard that is used, and then we'll see a deviation of 15. Standard scores are also fantastic to use when we are talking about comparing a student and two different measures, two different types of assessment. IQ tests are, you would get a standardized score with an IQ test. Our final one is Stay Nines, and our Stay Nines are going to show our scores in a range. As the name kind of says it is divided into segments. It's divided into 9 different segments. And with derived scores, you're actually going to see it being less precise than our other um, norm reference scores. Um, we will see the same raw score and it's pulled and put into a different format. However, with this one, because we're putting it into a range, a range could be greater at one end than the other. And so it's just not going to be as precise as the others. When we talk about how they are all similar, they're all similar in the fact that they are all norm referenced testing, in that we're going to start with the raw score, and then we are going to find these. We're going to take that raw score, and then we're going to put it into these different formats. One thing that we can do, we can look at the standard score, and we can take that and put that into a percentage. That kind of ties the two of those together, which is really helpful. That is the end of my presentation. Hopefully it went a whole lot better than I feel like it did in my head. So thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this class, and it has been a busy summer semester. But I am so thankful for this class as I get ready to start my first teaching job here in just about a week or so. So thank you so very much.